Welcome to the Star Chamber. I'm Ryan Swayze, a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel and the founder and president of the Walk the Talk Foundation, a nonprofit that advocates for and advises currently serving and former military service members going through the arduous journey of administrative processes and investigations in our government.
And I am Francesca Graham, a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel and the Chief Operating Officer and Chief Advisor for the Walk the Talk Foundation. For all our returning guests, welcome back. And for our new listeners, thank you for tuning in. Before we begin this week's topic, please do not forget to hit that subscribe button, check out our Walk the Talk Foundation website, and hit that donate button if you think we're doing a good job. Also, check out our newsletter, the DOD Times Redacted, on all the socials, including LinkedIn, X, Instagram, and Facebook. Links in the description. All right, Star Chamber listeners, let's get started.
Well, good morning, or afternoon, or evening, whenever you're listening to this Star Chamber mini episode. My name is Ryan Swayze, and today I'd like to talk about a theme that seems to be emerging or re-emerging within the administrative systems of air quotes justice in the military, specifically looking, of course, at the Inspector General and military equal opportunity systems. And that theme is the quote-unquote weaponization of the system. This past April, the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, released a video memorandum as well as written memorandum regarding retooling the system, IG and EO, such that it could not be weaponized. I'm going to present you with a null hypothesis right out the gate, and we're going to discuss this a little further. And that hypothesis is, if you have a system that works, in other words, it investigates allegations in good faith, competently, and in a timely manner, and is done by qualified investigators, the system cannot, by definition, be weaponized. I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but first let's listen to the Secretary's comments about this issue.
We're back with more reforms here at DOD, and this one is one of the most important ones we've done. The official title is Restoring Good Order and Discipline Through Balanced Accountability. A little wordy, but over the target. The real title that I call it, the No More Walking on Eggshells policy. You see, too often at the Defense Department, there are complaints made for certain reasons that can't be verified that end people's career.
I'm going to stop it right there. All too often, there are complaints made that end people's careers, despite those complaints or allegations being unfounded. Well, that right there is a problem in and of itself. How does a person's career be ended by allegations that are unfounded? Well, it's not unsubstantiated, it's unfounded. And this is one of the main problems we see, and we see both sides of the coin of it, in fact, is that an unfounded allegation can be substantiated, and or a founded allegation is unsubstantiated. Well, both are indicative of not weaponization, but just of an investigative system that doesn't work. Why aren't they being arrived at? Why aren't founded allegations substantiated or unfounded unsubstantiated? Well, there's a flaw in the investigative system, and probably the investigator/reviewer themselves. We talk in several podcasts, as well as our proposed legislation, about, quite honestly, the complete lack of qualifications of some of these investigators, some having 4 business days before becoming an inspector general, some augmentee inspectors or investigating officers receiving nothing more than a deck of PowerPoint slides before they're tasked with these potentially career and life impacting investigations. They are woefully undertrained, and most are woefully underqualified. That is the root of some of these disconnects between substantiation and allegation, whether founded or not.
So the DOD has equal opportunity programs for service members and civilians to report discrimination and harassment. That's a good thing. But what's not good is when these programs are weaponized. Some individuals use these programs in bad faith to retaliate against superiors or peers. I hear it all the time. Say you receive a bad evaluation, well, file a military EO complaint. It's nonsense, and we want to fix that.
Okay, so let's talk about that scenario. I am the recipient of a poor performance report, and I file a military equal opportunity complaint on my commander in an effort to weaponize it and take him down or her down and ruin their career. And the secretary seems to allude in his comments that this is happening all too often, quote unquote, with success. Again, quote unquote, I guess the success being defined as the recipient of that poor performance report able to derail the career of the assessor. Well, that only works if the investigation is done poorly. If I say, hey, Secretary Hegseth, I accuse you of pilfering pens after work hours, or whatever the ridiculous accusation is, or you're a racist, if it's an MEO type of complaint, it's not going to derail you if the system works and unsubstantiates what is clearly a flagrant or frivolous complaint. Right? That is the intent of the system. Further, there should be accountability or another investigation if the complaint is found to be excessive or frivolous on my part. So this notion that I can just sling spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, and it does stick, and it does take people down, is not a result of weaponization of the system. It's a result of investigators or legal reviewers or both substantiating allegations which are unfounded. That's the fundamental root cause issue here. Let's use a parallel in the civilian sector. Let's say I don't like my neighbor, so I call the police and say, hey, my neighbor stole my car. Whatever, something stupid, right, like that. Well, there's a reason I don't do that. Because the police, who are trained investigators, are going to find that that allegation is false and was made nefariously, and then I will be the subject of an investigation, and rightfully so. There is justice served in hopefully a timely manner, and then there is accountability for the person making the erroneous, intentionally so, allegation. We need to have that in the Department of Defense. We need to have allegations that are vetted competently and in a timely manner by qualified and well-trained investigators. That is not the case. Currently, in the case of inspectors general, they attend a 4-business-day course to go from whatever their job was in the military, tank driver, submarine driver, plane driver, dentist, what have you, and then they are a blessed, full-up inspector general running investigations and inspections with potentially pretty big ramifications for the subject of an investigation. Therein lies the problem. And the second facet of the issue is timeliness. We recently had a discussion with some high-level inspectors general about this theme of weaponization, and one of the concerns is that a person can chuck an allegation or two at an officer, a senior official, what have you, in order to delay their career progression, promotion, selection, permanent change of station, what have you. Well, again, the issue is not the weaponization of the system. The issue is the lack of timeliness of these investigations. It's not uncommon for things like reprisal, retaliation to last months and sometimes years in investigation. That, again, is a root cause issue of concern. Why aren't these being done faster? Many of these cases, although there are a lot of dynamics, are not incredibly complex. There's 4 elements for reprisal that have to be met or not. And I don't see any reason why we can't speed up the investigations, shedding the bureaucratic requirements of the report and the vetting and the approval to get these done quicker. Marry that with the fact that there needs to be some sort of scrutiny on a person who is found or suspected of filing quote-unquote weaponized complaints in order to just simply derail a person. So while I agree with the overarching premise that, yes, the Inspector General and equal opportunity systems should not be weaponized, cannot be weaponized, I think there's some fallacies in logic here, and one of them that jumps out at me was said by the Secretary himself, that unfounded allegations are substantiated and ruin people's lives. Well, that right there, I think you could say unequivocally, is root cause issue number one. Why are founded allegations not substantiated, as in the case of reprisal, running at about 2% substantiation rate currently, and why are unfounded, flagrant, frivolous accusations in the IG and MEO realm substantiated? That's what needs to be examined. And I think in that regard, the Secretary is spot on. I think the fixes are straightforward. You need to have trained and qualified investigators. You need to ensure their independence so they're not coerced, influenced, or otherwise manipulated by the chain of command. And you need to have timelines for these. Currently, in the IG system, there is no statutory regulated timeline for an investigation. I think that's absurd. That means, by definition, that something like a reprisal investigation can go on for literally a decade and still be in compliance with the law. That's crazy. And that was one of the concerns aired by senior leadership in our discussions recently, and rightfully so. But ironically, those senior leaders were overseeing some of the IG investigations that were languishing for months and years. That's a problem. But that's not a problem for weaponization. That's a problem throughout the system, complainant, subject, and otherwise. When you have investigations that go on at a glacial pace, sometimes intentionally slow-rolled and stalled, quite frankly, that is a Chinese water torture effect on a person's psyche, whether they're complainant or subject. Both are just looking for closure. That's an issue we've brought up many times. And it is salient to this discussion because, again, stalling or delaying someone's career actions in the guise of the Army, my famous flagging, where anybody can be flagged for anything, and then suddenly they can't do anything. They can't PCS, they can't go to school, they can't promote it, they can't go to the bathroom by themselves. Well, therein lies the problem. So you fix that, and I think you've fixed the majority of what the Secretary is concerned about here.
That's why today I'm signing a memo entitled, as I said, Restoring Good Order and Discipline Through Balanced Accountability. It directs a comprehensive review of equal opportunity programs to ensure prompt and impartial investigations, fair treatment to all parties involved, and timely and appropriate resolution of allegations of discrimination. So here's the goal. Empower leaders to make tough decisions, enforce standards, and restore good order and discipline, otherwise known as no more walking on eggshells.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with those final words. Prompt and impartial investigations. Now I'm incredibly curious to see how the services arrive at that solution. We, of course, at the Walk the Talk Foundation have drafted several proposals at this very end. Most have fallen on deaf ears to this point. You need ensured independence of these investigative entities. They need to be far better trained, both initially and on a recurrent basis. There need to be timelines, there needs to be checks and balances, and there needs to be some kind of quality assurance, quality control of the investigations. It's all laid out in both our 2026 National Defense Authorization Act proposal, as well as, of course, our pièce de résistance report, independent watchdog turned institutions lapdog, the failure of the DOD IG system. Well, we'll see what happens, but for now, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next episode. Bye.
Well, that's it for this week's topic. We really appreciate you tuning in. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and check out our foundation website at walkthetalkfoundation.org.
And feel free to reach out and give us feedback. You can get a hold of us via Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, and our foundation's website. Details in the description section. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next episode.